Hey guys, so after one of my last videos that I did about Dungeons and Dragons, I had quite a few people approach me saying, I really like the idea and now I know what I want to play, but how do you create a character backstory? This is something that I am very good at and something that doesn't take me very long to do. It's just real easy for me. And I recognize that it can be a little bit harder for people that are newer to the game because they don't even know where to start. So today I'm going to be going over some tips to help you create your character's backstory. So, do you have a minute to talk about D&D character backstories? Hello dear viewers and welcome to another exciting episode of Matt's Minutes. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about how to form your character's backstory. And there's a few ways that you can do this, and there's not really a wrong way to do it. It's just kind of whatever inspires you. So I'm going to be giving you a couple of tips and tricks that I have used to create some of my characters, as well as some of the characters that play in the campaign that I currently DM. I asked some of my players to give their input for when they created their characters, so they are going to be sharing some of what they used as well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the easiest ways to do it is to just think of what class you want to do and then put your own unique spin on it. Because you're not going to play a paladin the same way you would play a sorcerer, and you're not going to play a sorcerer the same way you would play a barbarian or a fighter. So each one of them is going to have their own unique. And then what I do is I take the core class and then put my own little spin on it. So for example, one of the characters that I've played, his name is Astari. He is a Circle of the Stars druid who is obsessed with stars and magic. Of course, that makes sense. But the reason he wants to go on a quest is he wants to rewrite fate, or change fate. Basically, rewrite the stars. And that's his whole reason for going on a quest. He wants to change some part of destiny, which is his own unique thing. He's also a little bit of a showman, so everything that he says is over dramatic and elongated, but also sometimes he talks very, very fast. Another person who has done this is one of my players in my campaign playing a character known as Fenwick Greenheart. He wanted to play a monk, and so that's what Fenwick started out as, is a monk. And then through the course of his adventure, he developed into being a monk rogue, which is pretty awesome. And this guy does a great job of playing Fenwick, and he's honestly one of the most unforgettable characters I've ever seen in all of D&D. Another way is to create a character with an interesting quirk, and then you just base everything off of that. So for example, my probably most well-known character that I've played and been playing for the last 2 years is named Denny Fireborn. He is a Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer Hexblade Warlock. Pretty sweet character, I'm not gonna lie. But what Denny's, and when I was creating him, his whole thing is that he's a sorcerer with a mace, which typically is unusual. Sorcerers wouldn't just walk around carrying a big mace. So I was like, okay, why does he have this mace? Oh, I know. It's because it was given to him. Yeah, his dad gave it to him. That makes sense. His dad gave it to him. Wouldn't it be cool if it was a magic mace? Yeah, that's cool. What's even cooler is if Denny doesn't know what it does, because his dad died before he could tell him the secret word that unlocked the mace. So Denny is on his quest to figure out what this mace does. And so every time they go to a shop, it's kind of a running joke within the party that Denny's gonna walk up to the person and say, hey, what can you tell me about this mace? I don't think it's ever worked, but that helps me roleplay him and gets me into his character a little bit more, is that little quirk. Another way is to just get inspiration from an external source. So take one of my characters, for example, Kenil Drouse. Kenil Drouse spelled backwards is Link Sword. He is literally based off Link from The Legend of Zelda. The only thing is I kind of made a twist on it in that Link is mute and can't talk. Kenil is blind, but he kind of uses echolocation kind of in the same way that Daredevil does in order to see what's around him, and that makes him an extremely good fighter. In addition, it doesn't necessarily have to be just a character from some fiction, so you could also take inspiration from like just a quote or a song. Another one of my characters that is in this campaign is Elocart, or Elocart for if I'm saying it without his accent. And Elkhart is based off of lyrics from the song "We Could Be Immortal" by Fall Out Boy, because he's immortal, and he does. The song has a lyric called "I'm bad behavior, but I'm do it in the best way." That is basically what I used to make his personality, because Elkhart wants to rule over the kingdom, but he's immortal. He's patient. He waits. He's waiting for that time to rule. He does bad things like kill people, but he does it for good reasons. So it's kind of one of those things where, what side is he? Is he good? Is he bad? I don't, he kind of walks that gray line of he does bad things for good reasons. So, I just think that's a really fun concept. But also, going back to characters, when you're making a character, it's important to think about what exactly about the character that you're taking inspiration from you like. So for example, take Batman. If you like his martial arts side and his detective skills, you might want to go monk or rogue. If you like that he has all these cool gadgets and that he's very, very smart, you might want to go with an artificer. So it really just depends on what exact part of that character you find interesting, and then base your character off of that. Another way is to just go ahead and roll your stat block and see what happens. Let's say that you roll an 18, a 16, a 13, 12, 10, and 9, or whatever numbers you get. What do you want to put that 18 in? Okay, let's say you put it in dexterity. Okay, what classes need dexterity? Well, go watch my last video and and that'll break it down for you. But in this case, let's say, dexterity, that'd be really good archer. You know what? I'm gonna go with an arcane archer fighter. That would be really cool. Okay, so then I'll put this other one in Constitution and this and that. Okay, but his lowest is Strength. Why does he have such low Strength if he's a fighter? Oh, maybe he's battling a disease or something, and he's going on a quest to try and cure himself, so he doesn't have much strength, but he can use a bow pretty well. That's just something to keep in mind, is let your stats tell you the story, or at least paint a picture, and then you have to interpret what exactly the stat block is trying to tell you. I think that's a really creative and fun way. So if you're really creative and like coming up with that kind of thing, I highly recommend that method. All right, and for this last point, I think this is important to do regardless of how you create your character. You should always, 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 always work with your DM to incorporate their backstory into the world that the DM is creating or DMing. I say this because it really is essential. What if your character's like, I'm part of a mage guild, and there's no mage guilds? And the DM's like, well, it would take me so much more time to make a mage guild. So your character doesn't fit. But what if instead of there's no mage guild, but instead you're like, well, I'm an apprentice. And then there's an apprenticeship program in this land that the DM's like, oh yeah, this would work really well with your character. So let's incorporate that instead of a mage guild. I find it to be super helpful because you're basically having two heads work together to create the same character. The most famous example of this in my campaign is a character known as Arata. And the reason why this is so good is because Arata was originally Garahim in my previous campaign. He was the big bad evil guy. He was the final boss of the entire campaign and lost all of his power during the last fight, but his life was spared. I then talked to one of my characters and we came up with this idea of having Garahim move on, change his name, come up with, new powers and abilities, and he starts his own faction that moves into this new land. And then that's where the campaign started, is now he's playing a character that originally I made and passed on to him. And we didn't even tell the other players about this. It took them like 6 to 8 months to figure it out, and it was great when it was finally revealed. But he and I worked together on how do we build this? How do we make this work? And by the two of us doing it, we were able to make it so much cooler than if either one of us had done it by ourselves. So I strongly encourage all players, talk to your DM, have these discussions about how does my character fit in, and maybe the DM has to change some things around, maybe you as the player have to change some things around, but probably both, and that's okay, because you're trying to make this work, and you're both doing this for the better interest of your character. So talk to your DM. share your ideas, and let your DM share their ideas. Have an open mind. Make sure, well, both of you have an open mind, and create the best possible character you can together. Well, friends, that's about all the time we have for today. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please let me know in the comment section down below how this helped you out. If you need help creating character backstories, I would love to help you. Please reach out to me and let me know what I can do to help you. Or if you want me to take a look at one, that's fine. I'll read them all and I'll get back to you. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you want me to continue to do more of these Dungeons and Dragons like videos on the channel, please leave a comment, like the video, do something to let me know that you want more of this, and I can definitely do that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date on when we release these videos, and so you can stay up to date on all the cool things that are happening on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks.